already read over these?
Yeah, I went over, sorry.
Anybody else expected?
Oh, you expected it?
No, I'm not saying.
Okay.
Not expecting anyone.
Oh, and I'm gonna be out next week, Thursday, campus.
Next Thursday.
Yeah, that's all kind of celebration coming up. She celebrates for a whole week. Ain't that interesting?
That's what we do.
Really? Gotta be somebody get me what do you call it, playbook, play-by-play book, so I know. I won't be caught off guard. So, all right, honey, what are you on? Some travel. All that kind of stuff. Turn off your phones. Turn down your phone, brother. Your phone is down.
My phone is down.
Yes, because I just remembered.
My phone is down. Sing it with me. Down, down.
My phone is down, 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 down. So you have fun? What you say you went to now? Went to
Loma Linda,
California. California, okay.
California.
In Northern California or Southern California?
Like 2 hours from Los Angeles.
Okay.
In Los Angeles. It's like the suburb of Los Angeles.
Got you. So I gotta start looking up there instead of down there. That's really we need to camp up there so we can see ourselves from that angle too. I just thought about that. 'Cause I look down a lot.
So you're able to cut this part off what we're talking off of there? Oh, good. Okay, then I can say whatever I want to say until it starts.
On
We're
this.
going live. We are live.
Hello.
I guess it would be much better if we used our microphones.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Mastermind Wisdom Table Talk live at 5. And we are live on Facebook as well as Gospel Radio Nation. So welcome to our show today. I want to welcome my guests. I am Chris Dolores Jackson. I want to welcome my guests. I'm going to let them tell you who they are because they can talk.
Oh, wow, I can talk. Hi, I'm Lisa Jenkins, and welcome to a great show.
Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, a Mastermind Wisdom coach, and I'm glad you were able to come and be a part of tonight's show. Thank you.
Yes, we are going to have a great time. We finished our 30-day challenge that finished on Saturday, and I believe we got some great information out to some great people, and I believe that they made some great changes in their lives.
I agree there. I know I made a great change. I went from good to better.
And that was the purpose.
That was the purpose of it.
Go
Yes.
from good to better. We are going to do a series, another 30-day series on changing our emotions, dealing with those emotions based on the book. But today's lesson, our today's counseling, our today's topic is going to be on motivation versus inspiration. Then we're going to talk about wisdom, and we're going to talk about our value system, how our motives, our inspired thoughts, how our wisdom affects our value system, or vice versa, because they're all connected. And what we want to do today is kind of invite people to have a conversation with us.
Excellent. Chime in. Tune in, and not tune out. Correct.
When we're talking about motivation versus inspiration. Most people think they are the same, but they're really not. So we're going to talk about that a great deal. So the first thing that I want us to do with our motivation versus inspiration is I'm going to read from our information sheet a little information. And then we will just jump into some examples and some ideas about motivation. Number one, the difference between motivation and inspiration. Where there is a will, there's a way. We've all heard that old saying.
Correct.
There is a will, there is a way. And that old saying that motivates and inspires us to work and stay committed to our lifetime goals. All of us need some motivation and inspiration at some point in our lives. Maybe many people might think that these two disciplines are more or less the same thing, but they are entirely different concepts. While motivation is always from an external source in an external environment, inspiration comes from within.
Correct.
And just for us to, as a jump off point, let's talk about that a little bit. Our concepts and our perceptions of what motivation is, what it does. We've had some brief conversations, the three of us.
Right.
And those opinions that we gave each other are basically opinions. They're not solid, but we're going to do some solid talk, some solid thinking, and motivating and inspiring along those lines that will affect our value system and increase our knowledge and wisdom as well.
Correct.
Okay. Now, says here, motivation is always from an external source in an external environment. Inspiration comes from within. Let's talk about that. What do you guys think about motivation being from an external source rather than an internal source?
Well, Chris, based on, I'm what they call a shade tree word etymologist, I can break that down into when you say motivate. We all know that motive or motor is the movement, external movement, or think about motorcycles, motor cars, it's all about movement. And externally, when you break that down, for us, it's about being able to put whatever we practice or believe into action.
Okay.
And that's my belief in thinking, starting specifically motivation, rudimentary.
Okay.
words of that.
So what you're saying is what's on our first page.
I'm sure, I haven't got through the first page, but I'm sure that I'm pretty close to being on target.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So if the term motivations come from the word motive, you said that
Correct.
without reading our cheat sheet,
Right.
which excuse me, which means the needs or drives within a person. Could you read that before I choke to death?
Okay, let's go back to the motivation. The term motivation comes from the word motive, is what he said. Is that the part you want me to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means the need or drives within a person to be motivated. In contrast, inspiration is the process in which an individual is mentally encouraged to do something. So today we're comparing this motivation and inspiration. So like he said before, motive, to motivate, to get going, external, to move.
Mm-hmm. So, Larry, on your point with motive, which means the needs and drives which a person has, we talked earlier about the work that we do as insurance agents, the needs, our needs, our drives. And we try to help folks find the needs and the drives within themselves
Correct.
to be moved to be inspired to make decisions. Those are external sources. We are consistently talking about the things externally that can happen to a person without certain benefits in place,
Right.
without certain decisions in
Right.
place. Those not only lead to other people's motivations, but that inspiration in them, if we can't get someone to mentally comprehend what we're speaking of,
Mm-hmm.
that internal inspiration, which they have to grasp in order to buy,
Mm-hmm.
be moved, motivated to buy.
Right.
It is that inspiration in themselves.
Correct.
But I also want to talk about the kind of things that affect us on our daily lives, relationship-wise.
Right.
Whether that be with a spouse, loved ones, children, workplace, church. And we want to talk about inspiration, some of the things, I think we'll get to that as well, some of the things that are mentioned in the Bible about motivation and inspiration.
Inspiration, very important. I use this terminology in the motivation is very similar to, we talked about our past experience, but I always like to live in the present aspect also. Just in this Mastermind Wisdom University environment, we're going to give you words of wisdom. We're going to give you acronyms to put things together, but you have to have the motivation to get up and to put it into practice. See, we'll go through a course like we're doing now. We just came off our 30-day challenge. The person that moved their needle to better was motivated by what we was able to supply to them, to give them, and now they're getting the results of the action they took. So that's the end results of motivations, is action and results.
Absolutely.
And that gives you the satisfactions and the accomplishments we have in our lives to be able to say we've had progress and we're moving forward in our lives. So that in itself inspires me and motivates me that when I get out, I go out. We used to say it let something be said and or done that we can go out and put into practice. That's motivation in respect, because you have to have action behind it.
Absolutely. Jump right in there.
Yeah, well, like you say, we have to have an action that causes us to be motivated to create something, to go out, to be able to, we have to be motivated ourselves to go out and help to motivate others.
That's correct.
What we do. So that's why we read the Think and Grow Rich. We're doing things that inspire us to go out and motivate.
I think you're absolutely correct, ladies. When we talk about the book like Think and Grow Rich, the book itself, when it talks about wealth, it also talks about, we don't get it, but it talks about the motivation and inspiration that the people had in that book to create all of the good things, all of those acts, the things that we enjoy today.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they first had to be inspired by their own thoughts. That's internal.
Mm-hmm.
They had to do a great deal of soul searching. And certainly some of those external motivations were people saying to them that you can't do this. Or as in Thomas Edison's case, when he tried to create the light bulb over 10,000 times.
Right.
So he had to have some inspiration to push that motivation to continue to do that thing that helped him create the light bulb. I believe in all of us, we have that motivation, but we need motivation. Other people can say things to motivate us. But I believe that the inspiration comes from getting the ideas to do something physical. That motivating thing. When you and I work together, some of our motivations were the trips that we got to go on. We talked about that. You have to be spiritually inspired in order to get up every day, to motivate yourself, to meet people that cannot see, smell, or taste the product that we were offering them.
Right.
And we had to create motivating ideas in their mind to help them see the benefit so that they would be inspired to buy.
Correct. Right.
Because I believe there's a difference between inspiration and motivation when it comes to purchases.
Right.
Because the motivation is that physical thing, that money that crosses the table. The inspiration is understanding the benefit down the road.
Correct.
I believe.
Right. I agree with you. I recognize it on the leadership side. When you're in leadership, it's just like when we started out in our business, as we just discussed there. Not everybody qualified for a convention. Those that were motivated, but I also recognize, as we'll get back to inspire, is something that's internal. But in motivation, and I'll just read this real quickly. It says, motivation is an umbrella term which can be used to describe a wide number of terms or ideas. One such idea that motivation is a driven force which gives purpose or directions to humans and animal behavior, which operates at a conscious and subconscious level. Without those behaviors would simply not occur. Another definition is for motivation, for explaining that it is a person's willingness to exert physical or mental effort in order to complete a goal or set aim for that individual. So even though we may have we use the example, a group of people, and you're giving inspiration or motivation, not everybody is going to get it. You know, some people are motivated. We have different levels of motivation, and in that respect, when we give that, it's what's internal in them which inspires them to get out by being motivated to get their goal or the set aim that they set to accomplish that. And the accomplishment then motivates them to do it over and over again. So back to what you were saying earlier, based on our experiences in our year, in a leadership role, we want to motivate people, we want to inspire them, but everything is predicated on the action that was taken after the presentation was made.
Absolutely right. My nephew, my godson, I wanted to be there.
Hey, guys.
Derek has joined us, Derek Bennett.
Please chime in. Yes.
Paul James, Lynn Davison.
Okay, all right, welcome.
Derek is he's retired from the Air Force.
Excellent.
And what we're talking about, Derek, is motivation versus inspiration. And you have been a teacher, you're a retired teacher, and I know that you have spoken with several classes teaching them what you were taught while you were in the Air Force. So what I would like, chime in on your thoughts about the difference between motivation and inspiration.
Please.
That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about also how that affects our wisdom, our thought processes, and our value systems. Because many times, I believe, we put our value systems together without understanding the motives for it, being inspired enough to come up with the right set of goals, standards, or sets of guidelines, disciplines. And that affects the wisdom that we carry with us as we go forward. So, my definition on one of my little cheat sheets says motivation is a psychological concept which is designed as a stimulus or force that impels people to take action. I'm going to come back to the word impel.
Okay.
It is something that persuades people to behave and act in a particular way. That's motivation. It also is defined as the process of giving a reason to someone to do or achieve something. And in many cases, we as motivational speakers, as we were talking about the 30-day challenge,
Correct.
we're trying to give people reasons to move from good to better.
Right.
We were trying to give people ideas of what they could do for themselves immediately to make some changes in their lives. Those were physical, because you have to physically move yourself to a position of doing that, but the inspiration comes from within. Because you have to see benefit.
Correct.
So, as you and I talked about racing, you know, you've got to really be inspired to motivate yourself to get up in the morning to do the exercise,
Yeah.
to follow through.
Correct.
Because motivation is external.
Correct.
It means moving something, doing something. Lisa and I talked earlier about past relationships, of how we were motivated to move beyond a particular type of relationship because of a physical compromise that she and an individual could not come to.
Correct.
Right.
Which meant that you needed to make a inspired decision, an internal thought. We want to speak to that just a little. Not you don't have to use names, but the motivation behind it was physical. The inspiration that caused you to separate yourself from an individual was inspiration.
Right.
Can you give me a little bit? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well, as we said, motivation refers to the process and stimulation of someone to act in a definite way to achieve a goal. So sometimes inspiration, or sometimes things that happen to you emotionally or mentally, it's all emotional, causes you to react and move in a process that motivates you. And sometimes, okay, he's talking about relationships. Sometimes we're motivated in relationships and we don't go internal. We don't think about it because this person we may think this person is the right person, right? So we're motivated, compelled to be with that person, right, without thinking about his values or my values or comparing without even thinking, inside or out. Sometimes you're just motivated toward individuals at times. Is that what you're speaking of?
That's exactly what I'm speaking of. What I'm saying is, with our value systems,
right,
the ones that we go into relationship with, the
right,
ones that we go into work environments with, we see, we feel, we think a certain way,
right,
that our motivations for going, we're asked, you know, what do you think about the job? Can you do the job?
right.
But we have a different motivation for what that job is. The first thing is a paycheck. The second thing is how that paycheck can satisfy some of our needs.
Correct.
But it takes, in my opinion, in order to continue to go to that job, you have to be inspired.
Right.
Which is mental.
And when you don't think of it mentally, it's always short-lived. And that's what it's saying here. You know, when you don't have nothing within, or you're not thinking, you're not inspired, you know, you go into this job, whatever, for the money, and you're not really motivated. You motivated because of the money.
Right.
Right. You're not inspired because you don't have a reason. The reason we go out into the field, I call it the field, into the community to help people because of the way we feel within. We're inspired to go out, so we wake up every morning motivated. Motivated to go out to help someone else.
So what I hear you saying is you have to be motivated to shower, motivated to put your clothes on.
Sometimes we do.
Motivated
Sometimes we
to
do.
move.
Yeah. We have to. That's why some people don't
Yeah,
get
somebody-
up. What did you say?
I'm just Gloria LaFleur, which is a church member. Hey, Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Gloria.
Jim Taylor has joined us. Lynn Davidson has also joined us. Hi, guys. We're
Hi,
glad to have
everyone.
you with us. We're talking about motivation versus inspiration. We're talking about how that affects our value system and affects the wisdom that we use to maintain our values.
Chris, you had mentioned earlier when we were just talking about relationship, and you talked about me. And I like, as you just said before, doing marathons now, and I've done it, I guess, for the last 5 years. The inspiration to that was I just recently passed my 105-year-old grandmother. When I noticed and saw her longevity in life, sound mind, sound body for the most part, I was inspired because I knew I had it in my DNA. Now my motivation was what is I going to do to prolong or give me that chance in there. It was in my DNA, but you still got to do things. You got to be motivated to put action to whatever you do. So running was one of the things I've been able to notice that seniors and people, that's been around a long time that run and or walk. So I then was motivated. I'm motivated now with the end results of my running. Like you said, I have to get up in the morning. I do anywhere between 3 to 10 miles. No problem now. But initially, oh yeah, it was a big problem. Big problem. But I'm doing better with it now because I've gone from good to better. But that's my motivation now. Can I do the things or live the life that I was inspired by a person in my life to move that direction? Well, let me do whatever I can do within my own power to help that longevity by staying healthy, running, eating right, doing all the things that's supposed to be part of that. That still doesn't guarantee me anything, but that's my motivation for getting up. When I finish a run in the morning or whatever, I'm now inspired by what I've accomplished. That gives me the energy to get up and do it again the next day.
So what I heard you say is inspiration gives satisfaction, which is a mental process. Derek says inspiration is the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical motion towards a goal. Aspiration is the internal and external value we assign to those goals. We either realize them or we don't.
Right.
Thanks for that, Derek. Thank you very much.
It always has wisdom in it, right, Derek? You've been around the right person, Mr. Chris.
He says motivation stimulates. Absolutely. Motivation does stimulate. I said I was going to come back to the word impale. In the definition here, motivation is a psychological concept which is described as a stimulation or force that impels people to take action. The word impale, if you go ancient times, biblical times, even now, when people say that they're impaled, that means they're stuck. They're stuck by something. In the old days, people, in Romans in particular, would impale people by hanging them on a cross. If anybody's ever watched the movie with I want to say Chaka Khan.
I don't think she made it in the movie, but she can sing pretty darn good.
She can sing pretty good.
Yeah.
She impales us with her voice.
Yes, she does.
Shaka Zulu.
Shaka Zulu.
Shaka
Okay.
Zulu.
Gotcha.
Movie.
Yeah.
He would impale his enemies. What that meant was he'd take a very sharp pole and stick them on that pole by impaling them, and in setting that pole up, where people would die from being impaled.
Mhm.
Here it talks about impales people, which means it kind of sticks you. It kind of needles you. It kind of points to a particular action to be taken. So to be impaled by an emotion, to be impaled by an outcome, means to be physically stuck, moving in that direction.
Correct. Yeah. I see it in, as you just said there, I see it as it says impale, but I'm looking at motivating compel. Forward moving action.
Right.
Moving in a specific direction, not back, but forward, to compel, impale, to motivate you to move in the forward moving action direction. I agree. You're right on the money there.
So what you said was, motivation impels us to set our goals,
Compel.
compels us to set our goals,
Right.
on the basis of things we feel we should do. It involves diverse forces such as psychological, biological, social. Those are examples of things that compels us to do those things.
Correct.
It intensifies one's emotions. It intensifies our needs, our likes, our hopes, and the actions that result from doing what we do. As you stated with running, you're probably extremely fit now.
I feel pretty good on a daily basis. Yeah. I'm thank God without pain. Wasn't wood. I got a knock on it. Yeah, it's about age moving on. I'm recognizing I'm without pain, so I know that's a blessing.
Absolutely.
And like I say, and the other thing I recognize, I met a 99-year-old lady, woman, mature, and best of health, sound mind and body, and she says all I do is walk. She says, I don't do no running, because we were talking about the running. She said, no, I don't do that, son. She said, I just walk. Forward action in motion is a positive thing. That's how God created us, I believe. And I want to do it as long as He gives me the energy to do it.
I think it's really important for us to truly understand the difference between motivation and inspiration.
Very much.
I think when we truly understand definitions in our own lives, definition of wisdom, which we're going to go over, and the definition of values that we're going to talk about as well. These are things that we do every day.
Correct.
That we don't make sound definitions on so that we know exactly why we're choosing the behavior that we're choosing. I want to say hello to Mary Figures. I want to say hello to
Hi, Mary. How you doing?
Eb Scott has joined us. Nicole Lewis, welcome guys.
Welcome.
We're talking about the difference between motivation and inspiration.
Correct.
And giving some examples, and of course you guys are welcome to
Please.
chime in.
Please do. I'd like to hear
Derek
your opinion.
says,
Mary, please, I want to hear your opinion on it. She's on the show with us.
thank you, Godson. He says Chris was one of a few people who provided a positive example, model for him. Thank you. I'm gonna send you $1. All that money I owe you, you may get it now.
So keep it up. Keep it
Yeah, and
up.
I feel everyone needs someone in their lives to motivate. The teachers, the preachers,
Absolutely.
you know, they motivate people. Chris, you motivated us doing this Mastermind Wisdom University because motivation is that driving force, as we said. It compels us to move, do things. It's external.
Right.
It's a cause and effect. It's external.
Right.
You know, an impulse take action with deliberately through motivation
Right.
compared to inspiration.
Correct.
And you said the comparison of inspiration is propel.
I want you to,
Want me to read it?
I do. I want you
Wow.
to read that on inspiration.
Okay,
because
so we talked about motivation.
Just before you read on inspiration, since we talked about motivation, and Chris and I touched on this earlier, as the audience to chime in on it, once we go over the inspiration, I asked a question to Chris earlier, and I said, well, let me ask you this, Chris, and biblically, what does the Bible say about Christ Jesus? Was he a motivator, or he was an inspirer? What do you think?
I think when he healed people, that was external. People could see that. When he asked people, when he was talking to the judges, the folks that was judging the lady that people claimed was adulterous. And he said, for those of you without sin, throw the first stone. What he did was use an internal thought process to get them folks to see themselves and stop looking at other people and see themselves, because the only way that they would know that this lady was a prostitute is if they participated. They were there. They had to physically be there. That motivation for them to be there was that end result that they took advantage of. The inspiration was that mind thing of satisfaction or getting something for nothing. So in the Bible, I believe Jesus and God used a lot of people to motivate and create inspiration in other folks to make changes. Every time, when we read the Bible, we read about different prophets doing things. I think of Jonah and the whale, who had to physically go someplace. He was not motivated to go do what God said. And he chose to hide in the belly of a fish. He ended up in the belly of a fish. While sitting there in that fish, he had a lot of time to think about the inspiration to be motivated enough to go do what God said.
Great. Yeah, and there's consequences to those. I'm interested in what the audience says. Anybody commented yet on that?
We have Glenda Copeland has joined us.
Okay.
Hello, Glenda.
Hi, Glenda.
We are talking about motivation versus inspiration. We're also going to talk about wisdom and our value system, how all of this ties into our value system. But I think it's important that we get our definitions and our understanding between motivation and inspiration.
And that's where you were getting ready to bring her back on track.
She's going to read
Beautiful
about
cycle.
inspirational.
That's
That's good. We went
inspiration.
around, but we want to hear from you, audience.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that you're understanding what we're speaking on
Correct.
and what comments you may have, because this not only helps us, and it helps me every week, Chris. It helps you guys also.
And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Right. So someone said something. Oh, they just said hello. Hello.
Hello.
Glenda said hello.
All right, Glenda.
Okay.
Inspiration.
Inspiration, the definition of inspiration. The term inspiration simply refers to an influencing or arousing process that stimulates people mentally and emotionally to do something creative and extraordinary. And that was when we were reading Think and Grow Rich. It talked about Charles, what was the guy's name, who he was inspired because he did not reach. He was inspired because he walked off from the diamond mine, remember? Charles Darby. And it talked about great leaders who, because of something happened physically and emotionally, inspired them to go to greater things. Henry Ford, you talked about
Light bulb man.
the light bulb. So sometimes things have to happen to us before we inspire and then motivate and inspiration. So let me go on with the term. It says the term inspiration simply refers to an influencing and arousing process that stimulates people mentally and emotionally to do something creative or extraordinary. When someone really wants to do something different, the desire of doing it comes from within. The urge is based on the value system, belief, life experiences, preferences, imagination, aspirations, and similar other sense that makes us feel better if we do or achieve it. And you spoke about, when y'all was working hard to go on the trips. Y'all were inspired and motivated to sell more because your goal, you got to set a goal to get there.
You have to have goals.
The inspiration part came when we were unsuccessful in motivating someone to buy.
Right.
Because you have to be inspired to go to the next person. That inspiration makes you move.
Right.
That inspiration gives you the motivation. And that, again, I want us to try real hard to understand the difference between inspiration and motivation. I believe that it's very difficult to motivate someone because that's an action they have to take. I believe we inspire people to be motivated because inspiration is mental, motivation is physical. Now, if I physically go out and sell something for someone, will they be motivated? Will they be inspired? Or will they choose neither one?
But just hope that you don't compel them to take action based on that illustration you gave us earlier with the guy, with the Saka Zulu guy.
Yeah,
if you don't buy, I'm going to impale you.
Yeah, I'm going to impale.
We like to have fun here. We
Just for you folks that know me, Larry and I have been in management sales for a long time. And there were a lot of agents we wanted to impale.
And compel to get out the door. No, just teasing.
They're not teasing.
We had some experiences. I don't want to call it no names, but when they show up, a lot of them come to my mind right about now.
I'm going to say hello to Glenda Cox and Donna for sale.
Hi, Glenda. Hi, Donna.
If I pronounce you guys' names right, I dare you to say Chrysoloris, Chrysophilus, Chrysophilus Jackson in one breath and get it right. So please excuse if I mispronounce your name. But if you can say mine, then I will work harder to say yours.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's why I just say Chris.
Yeah. So we're motivating and inspiring is definitely the driving force behind it and the psychology behind it with the values system that you just read. And I was just reading that last part on the inspiration. And inspiration, you truly want something for which you have an enduring desire to achieve it. You are continuously interested in and committed to having it. You make time for it. You make it your priority. It is a spontaneous impulse, inspiration.
I believe, as this is said, you have to truly want something. That's inspiration. You have to truly want it. Because the only way that motivation can move is through inspiration. It has to be internal first, to be physical later. And we have stated several times that motivation is external, inspiration is internal. And trying to balance those, because we think that they're both the same, back and forth, they're interchangeable, but
Right.
they're truly not.
No.
If we understand that. And the reason we want to understand that is because we've mentioned here our value system. And I believe that a lot of people have put their value system ahead of their understanding of what motivations are and inspirations are. So when we get into situations, whether it be with a loved one, someone that we're dating with the intent of marrying or not marrying, what is our value system? I believe the reason that we skip from person to person is, one, is based on our value system, and two, our value system is so, I'm going to use this word, corrupt, eroded, because of what we have put in it, what we expect of it, how we line it up against what we want. And sometimes, unfortunately, ladies, and sometimes, unfortunately, men, we will choose a person and we will think that we can change that person's value system because their values don't line up with ours at the time. But we are so intent on having somebody that we will set our value system, our beliefs, our preferences, our experience, we'll set that aside because we feel our biological clock may be ticking.
Wow.
And we have to accept the first thing that comes along, or the last thing in our minds that has come along. And that internally creates a problem in our value system. We have overlooked the wisdom of developing a true and good value system. And we will let folks, their influence, it's both conscious and subconscious, but that influence that these things have on us sets our value system, which affects the wisdom that we should have, because then I believe our wisdom can be kind of turned upside down.
Wow. Gloria has said something.
Gloria said motivation is relational, and there must be a connection. The woman with the issue of blood knew that Jesus was coming, relational and connected. And after 12 years of not being healed, she moved to be in his presence for healing. The right connection.
Good answer. Good answer, Gloria.
Thank you, Gloria.
Yeah, thank you, Gloria.
Excellent.
A lot of times we motivation kind of, sometimes takes a long time. When I talked about earlier, you're getting physically fit to run marathons. That took time to do the running, do the exercising, change your diet. It did not happen. You did not say one day, I'm going to run a marathon, and then the next day get out and run that marathon.
Well, they have people that have tried to do that. They have set up at the end of those marathons along the way, ambulance and doctors, and no, we don't do that. Yeah, that's not being wise.
You had to decide and then prepare yourself,
And,
right?
and make preparation and be wise, as you just said, using my value system, understanding what it takes to accomplish that specific goal in my life.
And did you not also have to change your value system when it came to that physical move of motivation?
Absolutely.
the wisdom was, if you keep doing the right thing, you will get to the end result. The inspiration to do that would help your motivation to complete that.
Correct.
So, again, motivation is external, inspiration is internal. And if we can truly grasp the definition, if we can truly understand the concept of the two, I believe that we will be able to move ourselves from good to better, just like we've done on the 30-day challenge.
Correct.
A lot sooner, a lot easier. And we have to choose to understand that motivation, the end result, can sometimes take a long time. As in what Gloria stated with the woman of blood for 12 years.
12 years.
And we, again, tend to think that motivation is instant. Because every year when folks get on the resolution that I'm going to lose weight, you know, they're motivated, but they're not inspired.
Not inspired.
We're motivated to go buy a membership, but the inspiration is I got to get up off the couch
and go out there and show up.
Because I'm always motivated to wave at 24-hour fitness when I pass by. I'm also inspired to stop paying for that membership. Isaac Brazil has just joined us. He's a church member. Thank you, Isaac.
Hello, Isaac.
We're talking about motivation and inspiration. Let's move to the differences between motivation
Key differences.
and inspiration. These are key differences.
Wow.
It's just the differences between motivation and inspiration can be clearly understood by referring to the following points. And again, I want you folks to be in on these points. And if you have something that you'd like for us to talk about or say, if you want to say something, just type it in and I will mention it over on the air here.
And if you have a story, please share it, because we all go through some motivation and inspiration accomplishments and defeats.
We all have a story.
We all have a story. We'll never hear
We
it.
all have a story.
And if you tell the story, we'll tell it on the next.
We will, if you choose
Live.
to have
Choose
us
to.
tell it, then of course,
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
send it to us and we will certainly say it. Can you do the first one for me and I'll do the second one and I'll ask Larry to do the third one?
Wow, okay. Key differences between motivation and inspiration. Motivation refers to the process of stimulating someone to act in a definite way to achieve a goal. Imagine, okay, inspiration is defined as an act of influencing people mentally and emotionally to do something creative.
Let's talk about that for a second. Motivation refers to a process of stimulating someone to act. Larry and I, as managers and being over companies and talking with people, when you go into people's homes and talk to them, or they come here to the office, we go through a process of stimulating someone to act in a definite way to achieve a goal. We try to help folks build on their own goals. We try to help them prepare for the goals ahead by this process of stimulating, motivating them with the information we have, the process that we go through, how we create in their minds images so that they can clearly see what needs to be done. Inspiration, on the other hand, is defined as an act of influencing. So when they come into us, or when we have agents, we go through that process of defining a way to achieve the goal, but we have to use inspiration to help them act, to influence them to take action, to move to motivation. Make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Yeah. Also, I like to utilize that in our example of when it says influencing people mentally and emotionally to do something creatively. meaning whenever that goal may be. And when our instance is qualifying for conventions and things, through inspiration, we have to put it in mind that they can accomplish it. It can actually be done. See, you can be motivated and inspired, but if it's not accomplished, able to be attainable, then people will just back away or not complete it. So, in respect to us as leaders, you as people that's over us, we have to be able to give the inspiration as well as the motivation that this can be done and you can do it too.
So you say first set the goal. That's the first step, to be inspired and motivated?
I think setting the goal is very important, but what is even more important is in Larry's case or in my case, when we talk to people in the past about qualifying for a convention, it's because we went through the steps. We were able to qualify.
Right.
So we were examples, and that motivation then was a process of stimulating them because they could see what we had done. He and I are still wearing our convention rings.
Wow.
From attaining those, and you show people, they see as you have them, that inspires them. Then we learn how to motivate them to do what it takes to get it done.
So the act of influence then is mentally helping them see themselves being motivated to move.
Right.
You have to have that definition, that distinction between the two.
Right.
Because many times when folks fail, they go to motivation without any inspiration.
Right. And it's almost to the same example when Chris just used that example. He says, we got our rings now. He said, wow, I would like to have one of those. What did you guys do to accomplish that? And then you go out, and if it's attainable, you go out and try your best to get it done. Because you want to be part of that same, environment and get those same accomplishments and fulfillment in you. So that's part of what we used to do. This is what we have, this is what we've done, this is what it takes to get there. And then that motivates the person to get up and get that, put it in action.
Our second point is motivation is something that impels or persuades you to take an action. It is something that impels or persuades you to take an action. Whereas inspiration is what pulls you towards something.
Right.
Being pulled towards something has to do with a mental process, because we can't pull agents, we can't pull people. I can't pull people into my thought process of helping them or them being helped by what I do unless they're inspired to move forward, take action.
Correct.
In that process.
Correct.
Number three,
there is a sense of resistance and competitiveness in motivation, while inspiration has a sense of excitement and effortlessness. So, in your thinking of that, you can get inspired, which is a sense of excitement, like you just got inspired. The rings are inspiring. Wow, you got rings. Yeah. But the motivation is where the resistance come in, because now we have to get up in the morning at 9 o'clock, and we got to see at least 5 to 10 people tomorrow, and out of those 5 and 10, we expect to sell at least 2 or 3. Now that's the motivation to get it done. And of course, based on this one, says that can be somewhat of a resistance. Wait a minute, I gotta work for this. I just want the ring. I don't want it without the effort. And that's where the misconception of the difference between the two comes in, because there is an action taken behind this to have this done, or to go where you want to go, or to accomplish the goals you have in life. So we have a new.
Gloria's asking a question. She says, are you saying that a person's coming to you because they are motivated and you inspire, influence them to act upon the motivation within? Just the opposite, Gloria. what I do when I talk to people, I am trying to get them to move from stuck to unstuck. Sometimes, even though it is mental, it is still physical because we have made that process in us so